Well, good morning, Rediscovery. This Sunday is July 12th, 2020. And how are you all doing? Elsie and I are doing fine. We have our grandson with us for a couple of weeks, so that keeps us going. He's pretty lively, kind of a live wire, and we enjoy him a lot. But we will have him for about 2 weeks. So we are cranking around here. Anyway, how are you doing? Everybody staying healthy, practicing your hand washing and social distancing and all of the requirements from the government and the CDC and the World Health Organization and all of those folks. Just so you know, Ron Griffin and Dale Erickson and I typically get together every week and discuss how things are going, not only in our personal lives, but how things are going with Rediscovery, who's teaching what our plans are for the fall when we can actually get together physically and in person. So we are still continuing to meet. I hope you are meeting with others as well. That's a part of staying healthy and sane during pandemics, is to not isolate. So I hope that you are doing that. Well, I'm excited about starting a new series. This is a series that is 10 weeks long, so it's kind of a lengthy series. It's called The Search for Real Quality of Life. And boy, that's real relevant to me and to you as we are in our senior years. To know, do we really have the quality of life that we are searching for, that we want? So we're looking at the book of Ecclesiastes. And I hope that you have the notes that Joel sent to you and that you're able to watch this video as well as, have the notes in front of you. But we will be going through 10 weeks. I'll be sharing teaching duties with Dale and with Ron as well. But here we go. I'm on chapter 1, and I'll read portions of it as we go through the study. But under the introduction, first of all, what is quality of life? Our culture tells us Minnesota has a high quality of life, but what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. It usually means good health care. We do have good health care. We have the Mayo Clinic in Rochester and various other cities around the state. They've got branches, and it means that we have a pretty good healthcare system. We have good schools and educational resources, some of the best in the nation. We have clean air and water. We have good roads and transportation. We have abundant parks and lakes and recreational resources, and you really see that come out into play as you tour the country and see other cities and suburbs and how little they have in the way of parks and lakes. We just have an abundance of those, and people love the natural environment around us. Another thing that marks quality of life is accessibility to public assistance, that the poor actually have someplace where they can go. It used to be that the church was the source for public assistance to the poor, but the church has, in a lot of ways, abandoned its responsibility to the poor, and the state has taken that over. Seventhly, there's plentiful employment. Minnesota has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. On a personal level, culture tells us that you have a high quality of life if you have fine homes, fine cars, fine clothes, fine food and drink. There is a term now actually called a luxaholic. And a luxaholic are people that are addicted to the finer things in life, the luxury items. So they wouldn't be caught dead driving a Ford or a Chevrolet or a Toyota or a Honda. They would have to have a Mercedes or a Maserati or other luxury vehicles. They don't live in homes that are less than a couple of $1 million. They're luxaholics, and that certainly is a high quality of life in the eyes of the culture. Good jobs, excellent restaurants and shopping, makes for a high quality of life, the culture tells us. Boating, cabins on lakes in the summertime, and snowmobiling and skiing down mountains in the wintertime. And then, of course, there's symphonies and theaters and those kinds of things. All of those make for what the culture tells us is the high quality of life. But is that real quality of life? Well, we want to answer that. So Ecclesiastes tackles that. The theme is quality of life. And King Solomon, who is the author of Ecclesiastes, and that comes out in the first verse of Ecclesiastes chapter 1, he's really consumed with answering two questions. What is real quality of life, and how does one get it? Search for answers to those same two questions drives many of us in our culture as well as in the church. Why does our culture develop bigger, better, newer, faster products? Well, again, to improve our quality of life. We don't go to outhouses anymore. We have flush toilets in our bathrooms. We have electric can openers. We have all manner of technology when it comes to communication. All of that to improve our quality of life. Why develop yourself through education, college, and degrees? Well, the reason you go to college, etc., is to get a really good job. Why do you want a really good job? Well, so your quality of life is better. Because people that have college degrees get better jobs, more pay, higher quality of life. I think that's how it goes. Why salt away my savings and maintain an investment portfolio and invest in IRAs and 401ks? The answer is to maintain the same quality of life that I have right now when I retire. I want to retire on having the same quality of life. So we're going to explore Solomon's quest to find out answers to these questions. What is real quality of life, and how do I get it? Little background, just a brief bit on Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes means preacher. In the Hebrew, it's koholeth. It's an assembler or convener of the assembly, or a preacher. The English title for our book, Ecclesiastes, comes from the Greek ecclesia or Ecclesiastes, which means church or assembly. Solomon is preaching to our postmodern world because he's basically using his own life experiences to address a lot of the issues of our own day and our own age. His book could be titled, How I Found Real Quality of Life. So let's look at chapter 1, and here's the first 3 verses. He's writing on, I searched for quality of life in work, but I couldn't find it. The words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. So he's identifying himself there. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What does man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? It's a good question. We're going to answer it. So the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem, we said that was King Solomon, and he's saying meaningless, meaningless, or the King James, New American Standard, and others say vanity, vanities, vanity of vanities. It's vain, it's meaningless, it has no value or purpose. What does man gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Well, Solomon declared that everything in life is meaningless. He declares that work is meaningless. Why? Why does he say that? Well, it's endless. You never run out of it. It never ends. There's always more to do. It doesn't satisfy. Even after doing a job well, it is short-lived at best. It doesn't last. Future generations will not know or even care what you did. That's why we build statues. That's why we name buildings and bridges and areas, parks, after individuals, because they're hoping desperately that somebody will remember what they did. So you have the Fauché Tower. You have the Carlson Building. All of these are men who've done remarkable things in their lives, and they're hoping future generations will still remember them. Moving on, it isn't appreciated for long. The "what have you done for me lately" syndrome sets in. So even if you do work, that's good. Everybody applauds you, and then what are you going to do now? It's fatiguing. Genesis 3:19 says, by the sweat of your brow. So it produces sweat and exhaustion. It's fatiguing. It's stressful. Genesis 3:18, one verse before, in Genesis 3, it will produce thorns and thistles. No matter how hard you work, thorns and thistles create stress in striving for income. It's a trade-off. I've told this to my kids many times. You're trading a portion of your life for money to buy products so that you can consume them. So if your life is worth more than $15 an hour, you're basically saying, if I work for $15 an hour, my life is valued at $15. I'm willing to trade 1 hour of my life for $15 so that I can buy what $15 will buy. So it's a trade-off. Work is meant to be a means to an end. Work was never meant to be the end in itself. It was to enable man to provide for himself and his family, not meant to define him or provide purpose and meaning for his life. That's something that God does alone. But many use work as not only a source of purpose and meaning, but it even becomes an addiction for some. I've worked with clients, and one in particular worked 108 hours a week. I had a wife and 4 kids, worked 108 hours a week. And the reality is there's only 168 in the whole week. In any case, it's not to provide purpose and meaning. A real quality of life is not found in work. So high employment rates don't equal real quality of life. Work can't ever do it. Then Solomon is writing about nature, and the reality is, I searched for quality of life in nature but couldn't find it. And that's verses 4 through 11. Here's what it says. Generations come and generations go, the earth remains forever. Sun rises, the sun sets, hurries back to where it rises again. The wind blows in the south, turns to the north, round and round it goes, ever returning to its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome. More than one can say. The eye has never has enough of seeing. The ear is full of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already, long ago. It was here before our time. There is no remembrance of men of old, and even those who are yet to come will not be remembered by those who followed them. Wow. Talk about pessimistic, kind of a downer. King Solomon is going through what many philosophers call the law of uniformitarianism. The law of uniformitarianism is the law of uniformity. Everything is uniform, the same, monotonous, always has been, always will be. Nothing will ever change. That's uniformitarianism. What falls under the law of uniformitarianism? Well, work, the planet, the sun, the moon, the wind, the stars, the eye, the ear, our past, our future, all of it is monotonously the same. Quality of life cannot be found in any of the above because they are insatiable, means there's never enough, they're never fulfilling, they never change, and they can't satisfy. So nature can't provide real quality of life for you. Well, thirdly, Solomon talks about human wisdom. I searched for quality of life in human wisdom, couldn't find it. And this is verses 12 through 18. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under heaven. What a heavy burden God has laid on men. I've seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, chasing after the wind. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I thought to myself, look, I've grown and increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I've experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. I learned that this too is chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, with more knowledge, more grief. Wow. Well, wisdom is usually thought of as the application of knowledge. You get knowledge, whether it's from book learning, whether it's from apprenticing, interning, wherever you got the knowledge, and then learning to apply that and seeing that put into practice, that becomes wisdom. So knowledge is the gathering and learning of information. It's obtained by education, observation, exploration, thinking, and oftentimes just the experiences of life that gives you knowledge. And it is a major part of wisdom. That's why the two are used sometimes interchangeably, like in verse 18. We define wisdom as the application of knowledge. Human wisdom is gained from experience more than book learning. The school of hard knocks more than the classroom. The problem with human wisdom is it's burdensome. It makes your head hurt. We don't have the intelligence. It is massive. The volume of information to gather and learn is incomprehensible. It's never ending. It's ever expanding. Take a look at news for a minute. Online news comes at us all the time through these news feeds. Television news, magazine news, radio news. You can get news about what's going on in the world, in your community, 24/7. It's amazing, and it's never ending. It's futile. It's chasing after the wind. You can't catch it, and life does not make sense. The wicked prosper. There are natural disasters that wipe out the poor. Everything changes. Human wisdom also produces sorrow and grief because evil is in the world. The more you know, the more you become aware of the presence of sin and evil. And finally, real quality of life is more than being intelligent and wearing all the badges of intelligence, degrees and accolades and honors. Quality of life is not to be found in hard work, the environment, or education. Nature can't produce it, and wisdom isn't the source for it. Well, that's it for chapter 1. Dale Erickson is on for chapters 2 and 3, so stay tuned till then. God bless you all. Bye-bye.